can hear my voice very well and you can see my screen, you can just unmute and let me know, please.
Yes, please. I'm Gume Jenani. I'm lively and listening to you very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that word of confirmation. And okay, so I would really want to thank you all for tuning in for the second session of the MES Incubation. And I would really want to, I really hope that in this session we get to see what a problem actually is and how to robustly define it. So today we have a very intellectual speaker, a person who has done all this amazing work, and he's here to share with us some of his experience of problem defining and how to robustly define a problem and to get that problem that's worth solving. I think we hinted on it last time, but actually right now we want to dive deep into it and actually understand what we are trying to do. So today we have this amazing person called Solomon Brewer. He's a computer engineer, an innovator, an entrepreneur. He's currently the president for Makere Innovation Society. He's also the CEO of Kawalet. A lot of things. He's the founder of Creative Child, alumnus in the Young African Leaders Initiative. He was the ambassador for the Africa Code Week. So this is a person who has really experienced what truly innovation and entrepreneurship is. Hands-on experience. He has done a lot of things. He has endeavored in a lot of successful projects. So I believe that him sharing his experience with us today will be a very invaluable chance for us to learn from someone's experience in order to apply it on today's session and in our innovations. So before we start, I would just like to thank our partners, which are Market Startup, IEEE, and Market Innovation Society, for giving us the resources and mentorship to undergo this incubation program. And I hope that collectively we all get to gain something from this. So briefly, as we said last time, the reason why we're doing an incubation is, first of all, it has to be innovation-led. There always has to be that creativity and uniqueness. Secondly, we have to develop in a creative manner and to enhance solutions that are already in existence and solve world's problems. So these are briefly the description for each session. I think you've seen this on our currently, we're in our second session, which is defining the problem. And don't forget that we have a session on first, which is Monday, which will talk about ideation. Then, before we start, I just want you guys to meditate upon this and think about this. Albert Einstein once said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. So what gist can we get from this statement? You can to come up with a solution rather than profoundly, deeply understanding what the problem actually is. So if we give it more time and more space, a bit is always easier. And through that, it's a design thinking process, which will also dive upon, that tells us about, instead of making people want things, which is marketing. So let's just dive deep on this and let's just get to internalize, as Solomon will take us in depth in those things. And if you have any questions throughout, you just be posting on the chat box, and I'll be taking you through the answers. And maybe at the end also Solomon will share with you and give you a feedback on your questions. So without further ado, let me give the chance to welcome Solomon to the stage and take us through. Yeah, Solomon, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Noah, for the warm introduction. I think it's important to acknowledge the work that you're doing. And just like Dr. Dorothy said on Monday, you may have challenges in your regime, you may have little time, but you're going to leave a legacy. So allow me just maybe turn on my video for a short while, just like let people and see who is talking to them. So, okay, just please confirm if you're hearing me. I don't know whether my voice is down or I'm audible enough before I can proceed. And if you're seeing my screen.
Yes, everything is loud and clear, and we can also see. Thank you.
Okay. So my name is Solomon Bwire, and I finished my bachelor's in computer engineering at Makerere University, class of 2018. And I'm currently working with Makerere Innovation Society. Before founding Makerere Innovation Society, I worked with Wakiso Comprehensive Institute of Health Sciences. I also worked with Phoenix International, commonly known as REDEPE. I worked with Uganda UK Health Alliance before I decided to concentrate on my venture full time. I work with Makerere Innovation Society. I work with Kawalet. I work with Yali. I work with Africa Code Week and also Creative Child. So today we are going to be introducing design thinking. We had a good introduction on Monday. We already know what innovation is all about. We already know the what are the requirements to be an innovator and to have an innovation out there being used by people. So before your innovation is used by people, you have to undergo stages, and these are the steps you're going to be looking at through out this camp. Now, I'm just going to give an overview of design thinking, and then today we are going to be concentrating on two items, which is empathize and define. So I'm going to be a little bit fast to use an engineering speed, but if I'm not audible, if I'm too fast, if you're not understanding, please feel free to interrupt me and or just send a message in the chat. Then I'll be able to adjust my speed. So design thinking is a collaborative approach to problem solving that offers creative, iterative, and practical solutions. Design thinking is a tool that helps us focus on the user for whom we are solving the problem and understand what the user says, thinks, feels, and does. You can't just make for me something if you don't know if I like it. So that's why it's important that we listen to what the user says, what they think, and how they feel, then what they do in their daily life. We gain a deeper understanding of problem solving through practicing empathy and observing the user and defining the problem further, brainstorming, and finally prototyping and testing to validate our assumptions. And can someone mute? Sorry about that. And answer outstanding questions. So in this program, we are going to be talking about or taking you through the design thinking process, and we shall ask you to apply this technique as presented in your design challenges. So today I'm going to be using a little bit, concentrating on my innovation. I'm going to tell you about my innovation first. I work on a product which is in schools, and it's enabling children to access mobile money services without having to process mobile phones. So we developed key rings which are used as which are linked to the students which help the parents to send mobile money to their children, and the children can withdraw money, deposit, and maybe save their money conveniently while at school. So I'm just going to be going through some of using my own examples throughout this discussion. So to proceed, design thinking is a methodology that can be used to develop solutions to problems that have humans at their center. So when I talk about humans at their center, is we create this, we design or we create our innovations by working with the users co-creating with them. We don't need just like on Monday during the discussion, something was mentioned. You create something, and after wasting all your time, your resources, you take it to the market, and the user says no. That's the most annoying part. So we always say that the best moment of an innovator is to have is having a paying customer. And if you want to have a paying customer, you have to get a product which is accepted by the customer. And co-creating it with them or with the customer makes it validate that. So collaboration is at the core of this methodology, as the user develops the solution alongside us, as we use design thinking by providing insight and feedback. So when I was starting Kawalet, I started with first going to the schools, and I didn't talk to the users. I was just looking around to see what happens in the dormitories, especially for boarding schools, both primary and secondary schools. And I was noting down what I was seeing. I never spoke with any teacher, with any student to see what was going on. After getting my insights, I decided now to engage with the users and also get what they have, what they feel, what they do, and how they want us to get involved. So design thinking solutions are socially desirable, financially viable, and technically feasible. In design thinking, we start with desirability, and then we move on to viability, because it's important to properly define the problem first, understand the needs of our user. So as I mentioned earlier, we went around boarding schools in different parts of the country, and our aim was just to observe what was going on and record our findings. We didn't speak to any child at that stage. So in speaking to this is an example. All of us have been to boarding schools, and you always face challenges of receiving more money from your parents. And sometimes you would use teacher's phones. Maybe your parents send money through your teacher's phone. And when it comes to time for getting back the money or withdrawing the money, the teacher is not around school. Or sometimes during storage, because money was always stolen in the dormitory. So some of us used to keep money with the bursars, but when you need the money, the bursar is not around, or so it was very hard for us to, so that was our assumption when we went to this school. But then when we went and observed what was going on, we found out that some students, you find they don't even lock their cases very well. They leave their suitcases open, their bags are there, their money in the pocket. And you can't blame them at that age, because during that age, you always have to be, most times we are always careless. So in speaking with the students, they told us that it's really very, very hard to store their money. And sometimes when you're in class, you don't have rapt attention. You're always worried that someone is going to go to the dormitory and steal your money. And they told us that sometimes students, when others are going to class, for them they hide in the ceiling board, such that after they lock the dormitory, they can stay around to steal people's money. So now in speaking with the students, they told us that the existing means of receiving money from their parents are very inconveniencing, and a lot of theft cases of their pocket money has been recorded, and this really affects their attention in class. Some had resorted to keeping their money with the bursars, where issues of reliability and consistency arose, just like I mentioned earlier. And so in this case, a deeper a deeper dive was done to determine what the problems were with the existing systems. The existing systems in this case were storing money or keeping the money with the bursar or with your class teachers, and also using teachers' mobile phones to receive more money, or your parents having to travel long distances just to come and give you financial support or resources. And so if you have something I mentioned earlier, if you have something you want to ask or say something, you just feel free and interrupt me. Then if I'm also too fast, if you're not understanding, then you also mention. So this became the starting point for the design thinking process. First, human desirability. Human desirability was established by speaking with the users to define the problem. Next, financial viability and technical feasibility were considered to gather the necessary resources and personnel. So for ventures that do not have a technical solution, for instance, if you're working on a social venture, technical feasibility can refer to the logistical and implementation feasibility. So this quote from Dr. Guru Rajesh Deshpande, pictured here with his wife Jeshri Deshpande, it reminds us that big problems present big opportunities to create a positive impact in our societies. So Dr. and Mrs. Deshpande championed a disciplined approach to the co-creation of relevant solutions to some of the most challenging problems in the world. And the co-creation of relevant solutions is a core tenet to design thinking, and one we shall be practicing today. So Dr. is the co-founder, is the founder of Deshpande Foundation, which is supporting innovators in India, in Canada, in the US, and some parts of Africa. And I'm also a beneficiary of this program. And he championed this approach. We are going to be looking at, it's a simple approach, but it really helps us to co-create impactful solutions to which are really helpful to our users. So empathy is essential. We are going to be looking at empathy as the first stage. I remember I told you we have 5 stages. We have empathy, and then we have to define. So today we are talking about empathy and defining. Then for other days, you'll be moving towards ideate, prototype, test, and then iterate. So empathy is central to design thinking because it allows us to start with the problem and consider it from the user's perspective, so that we can gain a deep understanding and accurately understand the problem that the user needs us to solve. We consider the problem in the user's shoes, and okay, so I mentioned that we start with empathy, then we define the problem, we gather the feedback, and then we co-create the solution, and then we iterate. So we consider the problem in the user's shoes. Sometimes we find out that what we thought was the problem is not the same problem that the user wants us to solve or what they really need. So that's why we need to empathize. So empathizing with our users allows us to identify real pain points they really experience. So in this point, you can just go around. Maybe if you can go now, particularly talking about my innovation. I went around the dormitories. I was with students who maybe had lost their money, who were having challenges receiving more money. I was also trying to feel what they feel, and having the same experience when I was in school. I tried to, and it was easier for me to understand what the user was going through. So empathy is critical for practicing design thinking. Often we don't have first-hand experience with the problem we are trying to solve. So we use tools of empathy to understand our users' perspective. So in this case, we are going to take a simple quiz, then we shall return. Let me share the link to the quiz. So I want everyone to first, I want to first get everyone to have this 2-minute quiz, and just click on that link. So throughout the quiz, you're going to find only 4 questions, which you're going to answer within their objectives. So you should be able to answer them with it. And in that form, you can also provide feedback. I want to know, according to my first presentation, what am I really making some sense, or I need to adjust something. So I need some feedback before we can proceed. So let's take a bit to something like 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do this. Then we shall get back after 3 minutes. Okay, now I think the 3 minutes are up, and I hope everyone has taken their assignment. Maybe let me just confirm from you if you are done. If you're still finding challenges to access the form, then you can also let me know. Okay, Benjamin done. So I hope everyone is also done. So this, it's important to take this quiz because during your final evaluation, they will be considered together with your your innovations that you present. Okay, perfect. Now, for the rest of you who are still completing, take your time, and the form is going to be made unavailable in a few minutes, so it's important to take it before we proceed. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah, sorry, but I have not received the assignment. All right.
Okay, sorry. Let me share the link again. Sorry about that. Okay, so you can use that link to fill in the form. Now let's proceed. So just a recap, empathy is central to design thinking process because it allows us to start with the problem and consider it from the user's perspective so that we gain a deeper and accurate understanding of the problem that needs to be solved by us for the user. We consider the problem in the user's shoes. Sometimes we find out that what we thought was the problem is not the same problem that the user wants us to solve. So I'm getting challenges with my mouse. So if I speak ahead of a slide, please excuse me. So what I was saying that sometimes we find out that what we thought was the challenge that the user is facing or experiencing is not actually what they want us to solve and what they really need. Okay, someone is texting, so maybe no, you'll be, if someone is asking a question, you can always, if someone wants to interrupt me, they can always just unmute and interrupt. Okay.
Okay, I'll
So
reply to that.
empathizing with our users. Okay, thank you. Empathizing with our users allows us to identify real pain points they experience. Empathy is critical for design thinking because first we co-create. It enables us to get to the real root of the problem and also the real feelings of the user before we can attempt to give them a solution. Often we don't have first-hand experience with the problem we are trying to solve, so we use tools of empathy to understand the user's perspective. We ask questions such as what, but not why at this stage. So to do this, we need to set aside our assumptions to avoid allowing our bias. Yes, please.
Could you mind explaining that first point of asking what, not why? I haven't understood that.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this stage, now, first of all, I told you that when I started Kawalet, I just went to schools and I started just observing what was going on. You get, at this point, I was not really interacting. I was asking myself, what is happening? You get, what is happening in these schools based on my assumptions. I didn't even when I generated insights, at this point, I didn't ask the users, why is this happening? Why can't you access mobile money services? Why can't you keep your money safely? You get, so it's important that you, at this point, you just look what is going on without having any judgments. You set aside all your assumptions. Don't think that, sometimes we always make mistakes. You develop your prototype of your maybe application before even speaking with the users, and then you start asking them, what is this? Why is this happening? Is this really going to work? And the user will not even understand what you're talking about. So it's always important to begin with just going to look around and asking yourself what. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome. So I was saying that to do this, we need to set aside our assumptions to avoid allowing our biases to shift our understanding. To emphasize, you observe, view your users leading their lives, and then you interact with your users in both informal and scheduled settings, and then you immerse, walk in your user's shoes. Be mindful that what the users say is not always what they do. That's why it's important to observe our users rather than just interview them. Just observe. Go to the supermarket, go to the market, go to the swimming pool, go to that school, go to that hospital, and just look. Just sit somewhere at the corner and just take a look at what's going on. Because sometimes the users will tell you that life is okay, yet life is not okay. And that's why it's really important to first observe before even interviewing the users. So for instance, if you could ask someone if they have trouble finding parking at work, they may simply answer or say, no, I don't. But if you were to observe their parking behaviors, you may find out that the reason why they don't have trouble parking is because they are paying, they're actually booking or paying or renting a dedicated parking spot. And upon further questioning, you may find out that this is actually a costly solution to the problem of finding parking. So there are various tools you can apply to gain empathy for your user, including photojournals, videos, interviews, and then shadowing your user where they live, work, and lead their lives. So this information can be used to create user personas and journey maps, which will guide you in your design thinking process. So we shall be looking at user personas in the future and journey maps in detail. But for now, I'll just tell you that a user persona is something like you can just imagine someone or get details of someone, how they spend their lives, and then you have maybe their picture, you have their daily schedule, how they lead their lives, and have that person. So you can have different user personas, compare them in order for you to have a good experience with design thinking. Now, so at this point here, I don't know whether I've been really fast, but at this point, I want us to try out something. So let me just share another screen. So according to what we have learned, I want you to guide me. When someone says, okay, a question like when we are interviewing the users, when we ask a question such as, where do you park at work? Does this help us to draw more insight or it limits the insight? So I want someone to try. I want someone to try this. Where do you park at work? So we should ask, first of all, you should learn that we should always ask questions that help us to, yes, someone, just go ahead and say. We should ask questions that help us to draw insights from our user rather than those ones which limit the insight. So I see someone is raising up their hand. That is, please just go ahead and say and give your.
I think if you ask a question that where do you park, it raises questions to the user. Like, why would you want to know where the guy parks his car? So it brings some sort of insecurity to them. That's what I think.
So does it limit insight or it draws insight?
It limits, it tends to limit in most cases.
It limits insight, perfect. So this one goes this side. So it limits insight. So let's get someone else. Colin, Abigaba Colin, you can try this one. Why is it easy or difficult to find parking at your place? Does this draw insight or it limits insight?
It limits it.
Sorry, you're breaking. If you get challenges, you can just text in the chat. Colin, I can't hear you very well. Maybe if you're getting internet challenges, you can just text in the chat.
It's stalking him or her.
I can't hear you very well. Let me just read in the chat what you've texted. So it draws insights. Perfect. Perfect, Alan. So this draws insight. Okay, then how do you find parking at your workplace? Does it draw insights or it limits insights? Let someone also try. You can text in the chat or just speak up. Okay, perfect. So everyone is saying gross insight. Good. How about is the parking at your workplace reliable? Let's try this one. Is the parking at your workplace reliable? Okay, someone is asking what is to draw insight or to limit insight. So drawing insight is it compels, or maybe I'm looking for a better word to use, but it really puts it enables the user to give you more information. But limiting insight is for example, when you ask closed-ended questions, someone will just tell you no or yes, and you will not get the real insights, or you will not get the real information. But if you ask open-ended questions, someone is going to be able to give you more insights and even more information, which is helpful in your design thinking process. So someone says it draws insight. That's not right, because yeah, it limits insight, because you're just asking someone, is the parking at your workplace reliable? Someone is going to tell you yes or no. Someone is just going to tell you yes, it's reliable. So this one draws it limits insights. And now, tell us about the last time you accessed the building. Does this limit or it draws insights? Tell us about the last time you accessed the building. Right, okay. So the majority are saying it limits insights, but okay, draws. Okay, I'm impressed. Draws are coming in, so I'm also drawing. So when we ask a question such as tell us about, you're not telling someone, that's open-ended. Talk about your life. Someone is going to tell you everything, right? You're going to get more information than just asking someone, tell me, okay, where do you live? Someone is just going to tell you, I live in Kampala. But if you ask someone, tell us about the last time you accessed the building. Tell us about, instead of asking someone that was accessing the building hard for you last time, someone is going to tell you yes or no. But if you just ask, tell us about, you're interviewing, you just sit back and ask the user, tell me about the last time you accessed this building. Someone is going to tell you a lot of information. So this one also, this one draws insight. So do you have trouble accessing this building? Do you have trouble accessing, this should be the last one, yeah. So let someone try. Do you have trouble accessing this building? Yes, it limits, perfect. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, at this point here, we are going to start with define. Let's proceed to define now. So now that you have gathered empathy for your user, and by observing them, you can now set out to define the problem based on what you learned. So you gather the insights, then you start, you set out to define the problem. In this define stage, we synthesize all our observations in the empathy step to form insights by asking the question, why? We ask the question, why? So this will help us to develop an understanding about our users or about specific users, their needs and insights. So you've collected information about your user, and now it's time to form an interpretation called an insight. You gather the information, form the interpretation, and then you form an interpretation, and then you get an insight. So a good insight is one which will point you towards opportunities that you did not know they existed. So you should, it's also important, you may not personally agree with the decisions and the behaviors that you observed in your users, but it's really important that we suspend any judgments about your user in this process of forming insights. Suspend all assumptions, even when you really don't agree with what you observed, the behaviors that you saw during your interviewing process. You should suspend, while defining, you suspend all these assumptions. Here is an example of an insight that you could form by observing consumers' behavior in the cosmetics industry. In the interview stage, you may learn that cosmetics consumers say they have a desire to see luxury cosmetic brands eliminate waste from their packaging. By observing their behavior, you might learn that consumers don't actually buy the products which are recycled or eco-friendly, or the products that are recycled or eco-friendly packaged. So users will, we mentioned that in the interview stage, the users will tell you that for us, we really desire to see luxury cosmetic products which eliminate waste from their packaging. But then when you just sit aside or maybe go to these places where maybe in these cosmetic shops and you will observe that actually they are not buying this recycled or eco-friendly packaging. Why is that? So this is the question we ask in the define stage about the observations we've collected. Luxury cosmetic consumers may say they want companies to reduce their footprint, but won't actually pay a premium for cosmetics if the packaging doesn't also look premium. So this is the insight you can get from that. And so can you picture a consumer buying a Gucci night cream packaged in a burlap sack or a box that looks like a ground up egg cartoon? So this defined step is critical because it helps you to identify the problem you're trying to address. And in this case, you might realize that the problem you're trying to solve is different than simply making the most eco-friendly packaging possible. That's why it's really important that you observe first before you do the interviewing. So the perfect problem statement, we are now getting into defining our problem. So let me check my time, 5 minutes. So the perfect problem statement is broad enough to welcome unexpected opportunities, but narrow enough that we know where to start, and it's human-centered. So you should ensure your problem statement has the following elements: a focus on the individual you're designing for, including their emotions, active rather than passive language, logical wording, strong insight, and it is inspiring enough to generate a lot of possibilities. So this problem statement should guide your brainstorming and innovation, and it will also help you to assess competing ideas and help you to avoid trying to design something that is everything to everyone, something which doesn't really, users won't care about your product if you didn't really, if you didn't have a good, perfect problem statement. So how might we questions are a perfect way to build your problem statement because they direct your attention to the user and the problem that you're solving for them. How might we help them to do this? How might we ensure that this is? So it's also by using the example of luxury cosmetics consumers that we discussed before, we convert our insight into the following: how might we question to guide our brainstorming? How might we, so this is an example from our previous discussion, how might we develop sustainable packaging that is consistent with users' expectations of our premium products? So this is a perfect problem statement. How might we develop sustainable packaging that is consistent with expectations of premium products? So remember, your question should, there are elements that your questions should have, and so let's just have a recap of this. So to recap, how might we questions are short questions that launch ideation, and they are broad enough to include a wide range of solutions, but narrow enough to impose helpful boundaries. They are broad enough to include a wide range of solutions. This, I mean that your problem statement should be open. Actually, it should not be mean that you want to create a problem statement which only allows your idea. It should be open that even other innovators, even you can generate more ideas out of this problem statement. So someone would be now wondering, how can I have a short question yet I want to cover all the information? So that's why it's always important that if you have a concise question that covers the key elements of the problem statement, anyone can understand it, and your whole team can understand it, then you should be able, it should be able to impose helpful boundaries, and then it is broad enough to accommodate a wide range of solutions to that problem. Well, so this is an example. So let's try out this as well. Let me turn this down. Okay. So, well, how might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? Let someone try. Is this, how might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? Is this a perfect problem statement or it's not? How might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? So you can either just interrupt or you text in the chat. It's perfect. Okay. It's not. Okay, so 2 votes for it's not a perfect problem statement, 3 votes. Okay, so it's not perfect because it's too narrow. You get it? How might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? This is too narrow because it doesn't. How might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? That is too narrow. It doesn't really help us to generate the idea, the boundaries that we want to focus on. So you need to, by narrow enough, we want something which is like you can really concentrate, or it allows you to focus on something that that specific need that you want to really work on. So there is so at this point here, before, okay, let me just summarize. I'm supposed to pause at 11. And how about how might we redesign ice cream to be more portable? So that is too broad. And then here is the perfect question. How might we redesign ice cream to be, okay. How might we redesign ice cream to be more portable? That's a perfect question because it's a properly scoped question to launch our brainstorming. So I would like to pause here and
as Solomon is sharing his screen, we've understood that first of all, we have to empathize with our users. We have to understand the problem through our users' perspective, right? Now, after understanding through the user's perspective, now we come into gaining insight. Now we've seen that the questions we ask ultimately lead to the answer, because if you ask closed-ended questions like where do you go, where do you live, like it's always a yes or a no or a singular question answer, I mean. But once you ask these open-ended questions, it will help the stakeholder actually define what he's going through, so that you don't have to mimic or try to design your own problem. Yeah. And also Solomon talked something about a person. I've shared with you a picture, and we shall gain more insight in the upcoming sessions about what a persona is. So without further ado, Solomon, back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Noah, and thank you very much, Sigrid, for the opportunity. Those opportunities come up, we should always yearn and grab them as if we are grabbing the vaccine. So at this moment here, I would like us to take 1 minute to complete the assessment, to just assess what we just covered about the previous session before we can proceed. So let's take 1 minute, just follow that new link that I've shared with you, and then you can complete, and then we proceed. Once you're done, you just type in the chat and say done, then we can proceed because we don't have much time. We have only 40 minutes left. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about the music. So if everyone is done, I'm assuming so, but if you're not yet done, then please make it in a classroom. Let's get out of the feeling that we are in a church sermon, or maybe, so this should be now we want to make it more interactive. And I hope you can hear me very well. Reshare the link. Okay, sorry. Let me reshare for Patrick, who wasn't there. Okay, now we want to make it more interactive. We are going to have a session where I want you to design your own problem statements. But so maybe a problem statement is a concise description of a challenge or something, or maybe an issue that you need to address, or maybe needs to be addressed by the users. So it's a condition that needs to be improved. It's a pain. So it's just a problem statement is just that concise description. You've gone to the field and then you have identified some challenges. Then how do you draft it? That's what we call a problem statement. It's very concise. It's a concise description of what's going on, the challenge people are facing, and what you intend to address. So, and someone also asked that when we say passive in nature, we mean something which is passive is something which is weak, something which doesn't have energy. It really doesn't compel someone. It doesn't have that sound. But something which is active is something which emphasizes. It calls to action. You get. So now at this moment here, I want us to, maybe if there's nothing yet to be asked by the participants, then I'm going to proceed. But you could also post more questions in the chat, and then we shall be able to respond. So now I want us to identify the three problem statements. The first one is environmentally conscious consumers need to see that eco-friendly products are of equal or greater quality than products in premium packaging. So I want you to identify any phrase that makes this this problem statement user-centered. What do you think makes it user-centered? Let someone try in the chat. Just text one phrase. It can be one word, or maybe 2 words, or 3 words, which make this problem statement user-centered or user-focused. What makes us think that we are really focusing on the user through this problem statement? So I need you to consider the words or expressions that you're seeing there. And then I want us to identify phrases that indicate that it is user-centered. That's what I'm trying to say. Environmentally conscious consumers need to see that eco-friendly products are of equal or greater quality than products in premium packaging. Okay, let me check. Someone says in the chat. Environmentally, okay, someone said consumers, that's not quite. Environmentally focused consumers need to see, not quite. So environmentally conscious consumers, this is perfect. Thank you very much, Sylvia. So this really, when we say environmentally conscious consumers, we are showing that we are focusing on the users, and we are specific to those environmentally conscious consumers. And this also comes, brings us back to when we say that it should be narrow enough. You get narrow enough. So then someone else say, others are saying environmentally conscious, perfect. This is good. So this shows that it's user-centered. Let's try now the second problem statement, which goes, university and college students need an initiative to use reusable containers because there is too much waste generated on university and college campuses. So which phrase really indicates that this is user-centered? You can talk, speak up, or you can just text in the chat. Angela, I can see you have unmuted. You want to say something? Please go ahead. So let's answer this one. University and college students need an initiative to use reusable containers because there is too much waste generated on university and college campuses. Wow, so we have a lot of feedback here. Let me check out university and college students. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now this really encourages us. We now know that you understand how to phrase a problem statement. Let's give it a last try here to just confirm. Our city residents have limited access to the information, resources, and tools needed to help them reduce their personal environmental footprint. So we have quick respondents. Someone is saying, so let's answer this as well. Let's now move into the last one. Our city residents, perfect. Ndagire, yes, city residents. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, that's absolutely cool. So the perfect, what really shows that this is user-centered is city residents. We are focusing on city residents, not just residents in the whole country, but city residents. And it's narrow enough, and it shows that we are focusing on the user. Perfect. So that's how you can phrase your problem statements. But let's now go to the second last trial here, which let me just maybe stop sharing here and such we can see very well. Okay. Okay now. Okay, now let's try this one out. We are going to now assess problem statements and what to look for. So I want you to identify which problem statement is too narrow or which problem statement is too broad. So remember we said it should be narrow enough, but not too narrow. It should be broad enough, but not too broad. So when I say that university and college students need to reduce the amount of waste they produce, is this too narrow or too broad? Someone just text in the chat. Okay, perfect. Too broad, too narrow, too broad. This makes it difficult. University and college students need to reduce the amount of waste they produce. Let me first take you to the previous slide. We said university and college students need an initiative to use reusable containers. You get, they are focusing, in this case, they are focusing on university and college students, but they don't stop there. They come and focus on using reusable containers, you get. But if a problem statement just says it's open to you say, this problem statement is saying university and college students need to reduce the amount of waste they produce. How are they doing this? You get. So, but this one is telling us university and college students need an initiative to use reusable containers because there is too much waste generated on university and college campuses. You get. So I agree with those who say it's broad. University and college students need to reduce the amount of waste they produce. So this is too too broad. Perfect. Okay, this is repeated. So now, to increase sales of eco-friendly products, we need more luxurious packaging. Is it too broad, or it is too narrow? Too narrow from that thing, too narrow. To increase sales of eco-friendly products, we need more luxurious packaging. Too narrow. Wow.
Excuse me, Willie.
Yes, please go ahead.
When you say too narrow or too broad, you mean the objective is like you mean it is more specific or you okay, like you mean if you say too narrow, you mean it is more specific?
Yeah, too narrow, it's more specific, but too broad, by too narrow, it is more specific, and by too broad, it allows, maybe it gives room for millions of ideas. You get it? But then
So
we say when something is narrow, when something is too narrow, it actually, okay, what I focused on in the earlier discussion, I say that it should be narrow enough
So
that it allows you to generate bound. Yes?
So you mean it should be balanced?
It should be narrow enough and broad enough, but not when it's just like I have these are boundaries. It's either less than, okay, it should be less than narrow and maybe greater than narrow and less than broad, meaning that it should be narrow enough but not too narrow, and it should be broad enough but not too broad. It should not be excess. So here we are identifying the ones which are in excess. You get, by too narrow is we don't really want something to be excessively narrow. By too broad, I mean it should not be excessively broad. Am I making some sense?
Yes. So how do we know it is too narrow?
Okay, to know that it's too narrow, it means this question doesn't really help you to generate boundaries for the solution you're trying to offer. And too broad, it is beyond, like there are millions of ideas that can be generated, but it doesn't really help you to focus on the real ideas that can help, or that will really add value to the user.
Okay, I get something.
Okay. So now everyone has said to increase sales of eco-friendly products, we need more luxurious. Boundaries is too narrow. This is perfect. I like how you have grasped it so fast. So how might we redesign dessert? Is it too narrow or too broad? How might we redesign dessert? So people are saying it's too broad. Yes, too broad. How might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? Let's try this one. The other one was so simple. How might we create an ice cream cone that doesn't drip? Wow, I'm so excited that you're getting them so fast. So this is too narrow. And let's now try this should be the last one, yes. Packaging on eco-friendly products needs to be redesigned. Packaging on eco-friendly products needs to be redesigned. Packaging on eco-friendly products needs to be redesigned. Good, so this is too broad. Now that you are really passing these things so well. I really expect that we are going to have very, very great problem statements. So let's now come to a conclusion. I want to give in some time to leave some time, set some time aside for you to ask me, to ask us questions. So let me try to finish in the next 5 minutes. Let me share my screen once again. So properly scoped questions, these are properly scoped problem statements. For example, how might we redesign ice cream to be more portable? That is narrow enough and also broad enough to identify many ideas. Cosmetics consumers need to be offered a premium experience in the packaging of cosmetics, even when the packaging is sustainable. Then the other one is post-secondary students. Post-secondary students need a convenient and sustainable alternative to one-time use plastic water bottles to reduce waste on campuses. Then the fourth one is post-secondary students need to be incentivized to reduce waste at food vendors on campus. So these are properly scoped questions, and they should guide you to also come up with your own problem statement. So this is a good example. And this, we generate this example from maybe an experience of how people use utilities, residents use utilities at home. And maybe after observing people using too much power, too much water, too much what, maybe. So you can move around people's houses in your neighborhood, but not during this time, during Corona. But for this case, I'm going maybe to send you some pictures which can help you to tour some places, some homes, and then you see and compare what's happening. Then you come up with your own insights, and then you generate a problem statement. So we are going to send you the pictures, because during COVID-19, we don't encourage you to do research, to move to people's places. So we shall send you pictures before the end of today. But this is a good problem statement for such an example of consumption of utilities at our homes. We need to explore ways to equip residents with the knowledge, tools, and services needed to reduce personal utilities consumption, because even when people intend to behave sustainably, they don't always have the time or resources they need to make more sustainable decisions. So this is a good problem statement. We need to. You can either use how might we, or you can say we need to do this, this. As long as your problem statement is concise enough and someone can really understand, and it has all the key elements of a problem, a good problem statement. So so the design challenge that we are referring to you, we want you to create your own problem statement. You're going to spend 10 minutes right from this point. I'm going to share with you a link for where to write your problem statements. Spend 10 minutes writing your own. You can write them. I'm going to share with you. You can write them, fill in the forms and share for review, or you can just stay with them. So spend 10 minutes writing your own problem statement. Once you've done this, answer the following questions. What is it about your problem statement that makes you feel it's appropriately user-centered? What makes you think your problem statement is broad enough? And what makes you think your problem statement is narrow enough? So once all this has been put in place, then you really have to have confidence that your problem statement is perfect. So now, before I maybe share this, I also want to recap and tell you that in design thinking, follow all the steps, starting from empathizing. Then we move on to define. You define the problem. Then you move on to ideate. you come up with several ideas to tackle the problem. Then the fourth one is to prototype. Come up with what do you want how do you want the solution to look like. It can be a mock-up, it can be a physical prototype, or other kinds of prototypes, as the facilitators will take you through in the coming weeks. Then it should after that you need to test your prototype, and then you ideate, you iterate. So you go through, you go back. If you test and the users give you feedback, they don't like this and this, you go back and then improve. So when all these steps, or when you've gone through all these steps, consider the fact that innovation has happened. At this point here now, I want to share with you the link to join Muro. How many of you have used Muro before?
Before we continue, I would like to
Yes.
ask a question. Are we supposed to submit our problem statements to you after this session, or?
Yeah, via Muro, or you're going to send, you're going to send them to, we are going to share with you a document where you can upload your
Or
problem set.
Solomon,
Yes.
what we can do is, since some members might need some time to think about it, as some are like actually dealing with their own ideas, we can share with them the questions, part of the weekly deliverables and reflectives to have, so that they take some time to work upon it and send us by the end of this week. How is that?
Yeah, yes, okay, by the end of this week, because be able to use them in the next week for the ideate stage. So what you're meaning is we let them to work on their problem statements, then we can give them maybe until Sunday to submit them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect. So
Okay.
we have less time. So I'm just going to introduce to you how to use Muro, and then we shall end this discussion. Then we give in at least 10 minutes for you to ask questions, and also to get maybe comments from Noah. So let me get to Muro, and then I send you a link. So for most of you who have, I don't see anyone saying they have used Muro before, but Muro helps. Muro is just like a virtual design thinking platform that we use. Can I make a problem statement in the similar language? I don't with a simpler language. Yes, you can make with a simpler language, but I don't know when you say simpler language, what you really mean. So Muro, you just click on that link, then you register within 2 minutes, then you join the Muro, the platform, which let me share the link, the screen, so you can see what I'm talking about. I just want to teach you how to use it, then you're going to do it in your free time, just as Noah said. So this is Muro, and it's just like you can have charts, or maybe you have a board where you're putting sticky notes to. It's just like with these physical workshops that we've been attending to during our innovation process. So for this time round, this is just a virtual one. And in this case, it's going to be used to identify, okay, or to come up with our problem statements. So in this part here, first of all, let me show you how to use how the platform, for those of you who do not know. So if you want to add text, you just click on text, then you can select, and then you just come and drag anywhere and start writing. Then this one here is to add shapes or connectors, connecting shapes together. If you're coming up with maybe flow charts, you can always use shapes here. Then this one is for icons. When you click on the right hand side, it has icons which you can also use. So remember, in the near future, you're going to be coming up with your mockups or maybe your prototypes, and you can always just sketch them or what. So this is also a good tool to help you. Then frameworks, this is we shall get to that when you get there. Then adding images, you can just draw something. You can draw your sketch or something on paper, take a picture, then you upload it. And then this is just a content library. And so what I want you to focus on is now the draw. So when you click on draw, you are able to come up with any drawing of you get. So now, if you want to add a sticky note, for example, here at a sticky note at who. By who, I mean who is your user. Right? So I just right click, you right click, and then you click on add a sticky note. And if you want to add them, you have to add them inside here. So when you click on it, it shows you that it's locked. So to unlock, you just right click anywhere here on it, then you unlock all. You can unlock all elements such that you can easily modify them. To zoom, you just click on, if you want to see, you see the words are tiny, but if you want to see them clearly, you just click on it, then you click on zoom, then you can see what is really written in there. And so if you want to go back after zooming, you just come and to this zoom out, this minus. There is also a plus to increase to zoom further, or this minus to take it back. So then, so let me add the sticky note. Actually, let me add the sticky note so you can see what I'm talking about. So I can add a sticky note here, and let me zoom and you see. So after adding the sticky note, I can change the color. To change the color of this sticky note, you see here we have color. You can click color here, then maybe you select purple. Then you can duplicate this or create another sticky note. So if I duplicate this and maybe I have it here and I change the color to maybe red, you see you can use many sticky notes as long as so you're coming up with different ideas and maybe to help you easily access what you really put. So then we also have to add text. I can click text here. Maybe if I want to add something here, and I just start typing what I want to type. If you want to reduce the size of the word, you decrease the font from here, or to increase, you click here. And then if you want to add border to your sticky note, you use this. Perfect. So I see Jethro is already in, and he can now maneuver. So you can also join in, and you let me know if you're facing any challenge before we end this meeting, then I can be able to guide you through. So you click the link, create your account, then you can access this Muro and be able to maneuver. And so Jethro, just to confirm, just try adding another sticky note. Add another sticky note on this Muro. All right, as everyone is still doing that, I would like to conclude, and as we are coming to the end. So my name is Solomon once again, and I work with Makerere Innovation Society. So this partnership with Makerere Engineering Society, we are going to be supporting you. Our aim in the next 5 years, we want to ensure that 10% of all students who graduate from Makerere University at least walk out of the university with their own startups instead of going out to look for jobs, because it's important to build your life, not just resumes. Most of us who didn't get such support were always found ourselves into a trap where, like, we are in an ocean and we're in a surrounding, and then when we finish campus, is like the experience was like a big stone just comes and falls in between us in the ocean. And it's just like the way you can throw a big stone in the ocean and water splashes in different directions. Some people who are doing engineering end up in auditing, some end up in teaching, some end up in becoming doctors, which is really impossible. Some end up in music. So which is not the case, because when you finish campus, you're desperate. Your parents want you to get a job, your friends, the pressure, you really look out, you end up where you really didn't want to end up. But when you define your life while you're still at campus, by the time you're graduating, you have your own company, you already strategize. When that stone comes, you won't be shaken. So I thank you very much. And let me share, maybe if you want to follow me on social media and see what I do, and also we follow each other. I always share many opportunities from my networks. I have a very big network of innovators, so you can follow me, and also I will share my email for those of you who have questions. So those are my social media links. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and maybe in someone is really messing up the mural. So my email is solomonguire@gmail.com. So I will also join the WhatsApp group in case you have more questions about this session. So at this point here, I want to thank Noah and the team, MES team, for giving me the opportunity to share with the MES community. And please accept my sincere appreciation, and I want to allow you to give your closing remarks to this session.
A question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I request that you summarize for us the elements of a good problem statement.
The elements of a good problem statement in summary. Okay, because of, okay, let me share that. I think maybe I will share that in the WhatsApp group since we don't have much time. And let me see if I can share these documents here. So Noah, you can please be giving closing remarks because of time.
Okay, thanks, Solomon. Would you allow me to share my screen?
Okay, sorry.
As in case you guys have questions, please put it on the chat box, and we see how to do it. But just in case, Solomon is in the WhatsApp group, and for the questions we shall ask, and for those who may not be with their laptops or computers but want to engage in the moral work, we shall share the link with the weekly deliverables. Yeah, I would like to thank Solomon very much. I think this is so far the most interactive session we've been through in this incubation, and I've seen that the learning process was very seamless as people were giving feedback, and it was very interactive, and that was the best part of it. And just to give a quick reflection, so as I said before, whenever we're working on a certain thing, we're problem solvers, right? We should spend more time trying to understand the problem rather than just endeavoring to come up with a solution, as most of us have seen. So in brief, design thinking is making things people want. So you may be asking yourself, what's the difference between these two? Marketing, let's take an example of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola makes users want things. If you look at those different companies, like let's say cigarettes, those companies which might have negative implications on our health, but we still take them. Why do you think they're good at it? It's because their marketing scheme is very good. You see a commercial of those things, and they make you want things by making, maybe let's say, making you feeling left out if you didn't take the product, or actually the product is something nice, like sweet, but it may have long-term implications, right? So that's actually making people want things. But design thinking, on the other hand, is making things people want. As you saw Slom's idea of Kawalet, where he made a product for students who might want to use money in boarding school, who wants to save. Now that's actually making a product someone wants. And we shall be diving deep into how to actually understand this design thinking process in depth. So as he said, there are 5 steps. There's the empathizing stage, where you try to understand your customer, you try to understand your stakeholders. Then there's the definition stage. Now this is where we have reached. Now on our next sessions, we shall understand what ideation is, how to ideate viable ideas, then how to prototype those ideas and test them. So empathizing in summary, we have to see it in 4 ways. One is to see the user's world, not from your perspective, from their perspective. Understand their feelings, communicate your understanding, appreciate them as human beings. Now, through this, you can clearly understand why empathizing is important, to clearly understand what the user is going through, because you are solving his or her own problem. So it's the first step of design thinking, because it is a skill that allows us to understand and share the same feeling as others. Through empathy, we are able to put ourselves in other people's shoes and connect with how they might be feeling about their problem, circumstance, or situation. Then we talked about problem definition. So to define, there's what you call a user need statement. Now to do this, we have to have an intersection between these 3 things. We have to understand the user through empathizing. We have to know their need. And as Solomon said, we have to have an insight, but the insight doesn't, it has to be specific, narrow, but at the same time wide in that perspective. Yeah. So these are some of the things we have learned today. And I hope that this thing actually helps you guys to apply it in your own projects. Let it be innovative project, finding your